Okay, welcome everybody to How to Tuesday Optional Practical Training. Thank you all for joining us. How to Tuesday is our weekly webinar series where we give you 30-minute bites of information from departments all across campus to teach you how to succeed in and after college. My name is Claire Reinert. I'm your teaching and learning librarian. Today, Kathy Guillen from International Education is joining us to talk about optional practical training for international students. We'll be putting a recording of the lecture component of this webinar on our website so you can watch it later. We are very excited to have Kathy with us today, and I'll go ahead and turn it over.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing today? You don't have to answer that. I'm sure you're doing great. Okay, so we're going to get started because we only have 30 minutes and it's actually quite a bit of information to cover. Some of you might have already been on one of these before, but basically what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the whole process for post-completion OPT, and then I will pause for questions. If we have time, then we'll go over some basics for the STEM OPT and have questions for that. We don't always have time for that. So post-completion OPT is the focus of this session. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Should be able to do that, yes.
Okay.
I see
Can
it.
everybody see it? Okay. So I'm going to make this smaller just so I'm not so distracted. This is our post-completion OPT request form. So post-completion OPT is the 12 months of work authorization that every international student is eligible to apply for when they are in their final semester of study. What that means is, if you are finishing up your degree requirements in December, for example, your OPT application window is opening up pretty soon because the window opens up 90 days before your program end date on your I-20. That should be December 15th because we always select the 15th of the month in which you're done with school to be your program end date. If you're getting done faster than the allotment of time that we've given you, we will shorten your program end date to be December 15th. That's important to note because graduation, like the ceremony, commencement, is considered separately from the completion of your studies. The US government doesn't care about when your graduation ceremony is. They care about when you're done with school. So if you're done with school in fall one, if you're a grad student, you're graduating in October. You need to hurry, so please come and talk to me soon. If you're graduating in December, both undergraduate and graduate students can graduate in December. Now is the time to start thinking about your OPT. So, to that end, you will gather together some materials first. This is an online application form. You don't have to send in a packet of material. So those will be the 2x2 photo of your face, a copy of your I-94, the document that shows you entered the United States in a valid way, a picture of your passport. If you ever had previous EAD cards, you'd need to have those. Most of you won't, but some of you might. If you ever had CPT in the past, you'd need to have all the I-20s for that. And then the OPT I-20, which I'll be giving to you. So, and $470 you will need to have. That can be on a credit card. What you will do to request your OPT I-20, which you need to have before you can submit your application for OPT, is you're going to send me this form and you're going to tell me who you are, where you're living, so not your Park Campus mailbox, but where you're living, that you're doing post-completion OPT, your CVIS ID number, your program of study, when you're done, and when you want to start your OPT. So this is the part where you have to kind of think about what you would like to do, what the job market looks like, and your anticipation of when you might be able to find a job. The reason I say that is because you get 90 days of unemployment time on OPT. And if you exceed that, you have to take action because you'll be considered out of status. So for example, your program end date is December 15th. That means you could start as soon as the 16th of December if you want and start working from that day as long as you file and get your card back on time. But that does mean if you don't find a job, your unemployment starts tracking right away. Now you might say, oh, I don't want to do that. I want more time to look for work. So you could choose a later start date. The very last start date you can choose is 60 days after your program end date because that's the end of your grace period. So that would be February 13th. So you could say, okay, Catherine, I want the most time possible. I'm going to put February 13th as my start date for my OPT. You can do that. If you do that and you get your card back and you get a job offer and they say, we really like you, we want you to start, you're a great fit for this position, we need someone to start on January 15th. You're not able to do so because you've chosen the start date of February 13th. Right? So in that case, you would lose out on that job potentially. So most students tend to choose something kind of in the middle. So, they might choose the 5th of January or like late December. That part's up to you. I can't pick it for you. So you'll have to pick. So let's go with January 5th, just for the sake of argument. And then you're going to tell me you want the full year or you want a shorter time period. I don't really have anyone choose this unless they know they're going to grad school, like for a fact. Most people just choose the full year. Even if you change your mind later, and you have the full year, you don't have to use all of it. You can transfer early to a new school, so it's totally fine. So what you'll do is you'll fill all this out, you'll sign it and give it to me. I will check with your success coach that you're graduating. Once they confirm you're in your final classes for your degree, I will go into CVIS and request your OPT dates as you have put here. So I'll put in, January 5th. Once I've done that, I will send you your OPT I-20. A couple important things once you get your OPT I-20. Make sure you sign it. If you don't sign it, it's not considered valid. If you upload it unsigned, the government will deny you. Second important thing, once I create that OPT I-20, I will send it to you within like 2 minutes of creating it. You need to file within 30 days of that I-20 being created. The government requires you to file within 30 days. So if you file on the 31st day, what happens is the government will take your money, they'll wait and they'll go through their processing time, and they will deny you your OPT. Because that's the rule that they have, right? So, once you get that OPT I-20 back from me, you're going to go and create an account with USCIS. Right here, right? I'll log in so I can show you what it's going to look like. Maybe. Well, while we're waiting for it, you're going to fill out the form. Aha. We don't need this one. We need the other one. File a form online. So you'll file a form online. It's usually a tile icon, but I couldn't show it to you because I was in a different form earlier today. But the form is the I-765, the application for employment authorization. Your eligibility category is post-completion OPT for everybody. Even if you have a STEM major, do not pick STEM extension because that's later. That's for next year. And then you're going to say start form, and it's going to give you a bunch of information that I'm not going to read, but you really should. It's a great idea to read it. And then it's going to ask you again, what is your category? Post-completion OPT. It's going to ask you if you want to pay premium processing. And I have students ask me if they should do this. So the filing fee that we talked about before was $470. That processing fee gets you your case to be adjudicated, to be reviewed by the government on their normal processing time. That processing time varies, right? So during peak season in May, it can take 4 months. In off-peak seasons, like right now, it could take 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. It varies. It depends on how many cases are coming through and how complicated the cases are. And it depends on how many officers they have working on those cases, right? Because sometimes they'll get pulled into other categories. So, let's say you've chosen your start date of January 5th, and you've got an offer letter from Meta, and Meta says, yeah, we want you to work here to be a really hotshot data engineer or whatever, but we need you to be able to commit to the start date. You might choose to do premium processing service. It guarantees a response on your case within 30 days. So it doesn't guarantee approval because that would be a bribe, right? And that's illegal. But it guarantees that they'll get back to you within 30 days or less. So I've had students do premium processing service and they hear back in 4 business days. It's super fast sometimes, but they guarantee it within 30 days or less. Now, the premium processing fee is an additional $1,685 on top of the $470. So if you'd like to pay the government $2,155, you can do that. You don't have to. For the vast majority of students, I do not recommend it because you'll still hear back on time as long as you're filing early. And if you're in this How to Tuesday, you probably will file early. So you're going to go through and you're going to tell them who you are. I've never done this before. No one's helping me. I'm doing it myself. And then they're going to ask you this information, right? And they're going to ask you for the evidence that's on the checklist. And then they're going to take your money. And they're going to give you an estimated wait time. And it's going to say 7 months, right? And you're going to say, oh, Catherine lied to me. It's going to take 7 months to come back. I don't know why they put the estimate on there. I've never found it to be accurate. I don't know how their system generates that estimate. So please don't worry if you see like 5 months or 7 months on there. That's not been the case in my experience. So with the little asterisk that this is always subject to change depending on policy changes. Right, but if there are any policy changes that impact this process, we will be sure to tell you. So you file your OPT request with USCIS, you upload all your materials, you pay your money. It comes back, they say, you're approved, fantastic, right? That's great news. You get the card, they take the card, they're going to stick it in the mail through the Postal Service System, USPS, to the address that you've given them, because they're going to ask you how to get a hold of you, right? When that card comes in the mail, and you're holding it in your hands, and it has not been lost by anybody, and the start date that's on that card has come to pass, that's when you can start working, and no sooner. So if your card has been approved, but it's still coming to you in the mail, you can't start working yet. You need the card, the actual card itself. Now, one thing that has changed, for those of you who don't yet have a social security number, so if you've not done any CPTs and you've not worked on campus, there used to be something that was called remuneration beyond entry that would allow you to get your social through this. Right? You could say, they would ask you, do you need a social? You'd say yes, and they would make one for you. You can't do that anymore. They removed that process earlier this year. So you will have to visit the Social Security field office to get your Social Security card. They'll ask for your EAD card, which is your OPT card, and they'll work with you to do that. Now, once you've got your card, the start date has come to pass and you start working, you're required to report that employment, right? You're required by law to report that. So you can report that one of two ways. You can report that through me or you can report that yourself because you will get login access to the portal. If you don't have login access or you have login access but it looks weird and it's not really working, I'm happy to update it for you. That's why I have access to. You will do that by sending me this reporting form where you say, hey, I'm working, here's where I'm working. Please put the actual company, not like Dave. You're not working for Dave, right? You're working for like Caterpillar. And I would need a copy of the job offer letter regardless. So how it will work is you'll send me this form and the offer letter, or you'll send me just the offer letter and tell me that you updated it in CVIS. The SEVP portal is what it's called technically. And then I'll send you a new I-20 that has your employer on it and let you know, hey, your reporting's complete. You're good to go. Let me know if you have another job. Couple things to note while you're on OPT. Like I said earlier, there's 90 days of unemployment time that you can accrue. If you exceed that, you're out of status and you need to take action. Full-time OPT is what stops that clock, that tracker, from counting. It needs to be more than 20 hours per week. So a 20 hours per week job or a 15 hours per week job, you still have to report, but it would be part-time work. Right, so full-time work is what we're looking for, but the government defines full-time differently than companies. So you might get a 25-hour-a-week job that's part-time, but the government would consider it to be full-time. Right, so you'd report all this. You can have more than one employer while you're on OPT. All of the employers you have must be directly the job, not the company, right? The job, the role, the responsibilities must be directly related to your major. So if your major is sport and exercise science, and you say, okay, I'm working in car sales, that's not gonna work. So it has to be something directly related to your major, right? While you're on your post-completion OPT, you can do work that is paid or unpaid. You can also be self-employed if you founded a business, right? So if you started an LLC, you can be self-employed as long as it's directly related to your major. That's the main kind of most pressing rule. And you're going to have to explain how it's related to your major, whether you do that through me or through the SEVP portal. You will have to explain how it's related to your major. And when people ask me, well, what about this job? Is this related? I'm not an expert in your majors. I don't know every major. well enough to be able to tell you that. And I'm also not the one that you're proving it to. You're proving it to the federal government. So usually the best rule of thumb would be this. If you are getting in the elevator with a USCIS officer and you have from the ground floor to the penthouse to justify, we call this an elevator pitch, right? To justify your job and say how it's related to your school, like your studies, and you think by the time you get to the penthouse that the officer would agree with you, then you should be fine. But just make sure that you're documenting it through this form or through the SUVP portal. Okay, those are all the basics for